All right, it's time for another look at centerpiece fish for your aquariums. I know everyone wants that big, cool looking fish for their aquarium that everyone goes, oh, what is that? Today, we're gonna share some more of those and might get that reaction from your family or your friends in your aquarium. The electric blue acara, another great cichlid with that neon blue intensity. Now they get, this size. Whenever I say inches, people go, not that. So about this size, they get, full grown, and they're usually not too expensive, about $20-ish, give or take $5 to $10 either way, depending if there's a local breeder or not. You can sometimes find them at a Petco, PetSmart type of thing, but usually it's gonna be a mom and pop shop. Neutral pH, normal tropical temperatures, 72 to 80. They're an easier one. If you can take care of an angelfish, or you think you could take care of an angelfish, you can probably take care of a electric blue acara. Any fish could have a temperament that is more aggressive or less aggressive, so each individual pet could be different, just like each dog is different. But in general, they're a pretty laid-back species and a great addition to a planted community tank or anything else. They can go up and down, so they can go with small fish, but then they can also hold their own with, you've got some larger, blood parrots, baller sharks, angelfish, all that kind of stuff that's larger. It would be fine there too. Rainbow sharks are awesome because they're an algae eater, but then also it's a shark and it looks like a shark and they're boisterous. They're out and about, they're moving around and they're zipping around, and so that can become that showpiece that you're looking for of, hey look, Sharky's doing a thing. I've heard that a million times. Being that they're an algae eater, not too picky. They'll eat any food. They'll definitely eat aquarium food you're putting in. They're also going to scavenge for some of that algae, a little bit of hair algae, a little bit of brown diatom algae. pH neutral, kind of that 6, 8, 7, 8, somewhere in there. Temperature, same thing, kind of that 70 to 80. And then hardness and all that, kind of neutral, in the middle. If you go right down the middle, you're gonna be fine with all of these fish. They're just a great thing, and they're readily available and cheap. The Dojo loach, it's unique because it can go in a cool water tank and like a tropical tank, but not on the higher end. Like, don't go too much more above 78, but they get hot dog sized, right? They look unique. People are going to ask if that's an eel. It'll probably get a name. They will burrow a little bit sometimes. They are easy to feed. They're cheap. And they're just a great fish that you can add into that tank, that they're not going to eat your tetras or your rasboras or anything like that. They might snack on some baby shrimp. They're not really a snail eater. But if you're looking for something like, it's so hard to go, I want a big fish in my tank that stands out but won't be too aggressive, won't do this, won't do that. This is just one of those options to go, I like the way that looks. Let's do that weather loach or that Dojo loach. The royal farlowella. Now this is kind of a wood and algae and protein eater. It's a catfish. They look cool. They've got these long stringy fins. I wouldn't put them with anything that's going to really, bite on those fins, but it would be great in a tetra, rasbora, that community tank, live bearers, all of that's fine. pH, temperature, all of that, again, kind of in the middle. If you're 6, 8 and above, and below 7, 8 or so, temperatures in those 70s somewhere, it's going to thrive. I would introduce at least a piece of wood in there so it has something you can go munch on if you're not going to find a food that has wood fibers in it, like Rapashi morning wood. Not easy to find. They're probably about $30. It's a cool, unique thing that'll be like, wow, look what he's doing. The black ghost knife. People want me to talk about this fish all the time. They do get ginormous over time, like solid 18, 20 inches over many years, and they can become predatory. But when they're young, you're buying them like this big, and you might get 6, 7, 8 years before they're starting to become a problem. You might be out of the hobby by then. You might be 700 aquariums, and I've got giant aquariums in by then. But they're cool. They're mostly nocturnal. They like to live in caves. They'll even live in see-through caves because they mostly use sonar. So when the lights are dim, they come out, but they can swim backwards and forwards all the same, which is cool. They love freeze-dried and frozen bloodworms. They love anything meaty, really. And being that most of the fish that you're going to keep won't fit in their mouth, that'll work out well for a long time. Now, once they are big enough, they will prey on smaller tetras and things like that. You also don't want something that's going to beat them up because they don't really have a good defense mechanism, really. You also want to stick to just one. I rarely meet someone that doesn't love a black ghost knife if they own one. Just know, again, kind of middle of the road on all the parameters, just kind of like everything else. This question comes in from Outrider. Wouldn't the fish die if I don't feed for a week? Now, this is a common misconception that fish need to eat all the time. If they go too long, usually that, depending on the type of fish, That's usually at least a month. You could look into some long-term losses there of weight and that kind of stuff. An aggressive fish, that's not good. But in general, fish are eating all the time, little organisms in your aquarium, algae, things like that, leftover fish food. And so if you're going out of town for a week or you're treating with medications or something like that, it's usually no problem at all unless they've already started out underweight. But for more, check out this video right over here on how to cure fin rot, where this question came from, where we recommended not feeding while treating, because a lot of times when you're sick, you don't eat.